Welcome back to Uncharted Your Sidekick for Life. This is episode 9, and today, Dan Dillard, Dr. Leon Vanstone, and myself, Natalie Payton, are pleased to have a very special guest with us, Kwame Walker. Kwame is a seasoned mentor with a wealth of experience in law, government, and consulting. His impressive background includes years of lobbying, working with various entities from cities to Fortune 500 companies, and he has a deep commitment to helping others navigate their career paths. Today, we'll learn about his story and examine the intersections of law and government. Our Gen Z contributors who were interviewed by Anais Schmidt and myself include Mahi, who shares her anxieties about technology and how it's taking over the minds of younger generations, and Sarah, who shares her honest opinions about the public education system from elementary to graduate level. Mahi and Sarah's concerns sparked some very interesting discussions this episode. Let's have a listen.
Welcome to Uncharted. What episode is this? Is this number 9?
I think it's 9.
Wow.
I know.
It's been such a fun journey. It's been such a fun journey learning from the different mentors and also the questions from Gen Z. So, well, before we get started, let's just kind of start off with just letting everybody know who we are.
Hey, everybody. I'm Natalie. I'm an actor, comedian, podcast person, Natalie, and a marketer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Leon Vanstone. I'm a rocket scientist, entrepreneur, and a storyteller, and of course, co-founder here at Fanning Up.
And I'm Dan Dillard. I'm also an entrepreneur. I got a finance background, also co-founder of Fanning Up and host of Uncharted. And we've got a guest host with us today, a guest mentor, Kwame Walker. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what you do? And
my name is Kwame Walker, and I'm with McGrath Woods Consulting, and I'm a lobbyist / lawyer in the consulting part of the firm.
That's really, really interesting. And I want to dive in a little bit deeper. And the reason I think it's so interesting is because as we talk to Gen Z, they're trying to figure out what they want to be in life. And the easiest things that always come up is a CPA, a lawyer, a doctor. Those are the 3 things. But within those things, and obviously there's 10,000 other options, but within those 3 things, even at that level, there's adjacent careers that you can have. So an attorney is not just an attorney, or a lawyer is not just a lawyer.
Right,
there's
exactly.
all kinds of things. So I want to just dive a little bit more into like how that works for you. Like, how did you get into law?
So
and then
this is going to be a long...
This is like a hidden,
Yeah.
this is a hidden world
This is
for a lot of our listeners. So yeah,
Yes. So let me go from the beginning.
When I was
We love that.
Right.
No, we love the beginning. We are here for it.
But I came to Austin to try out for basketball.
Okay.
For UT Austin. Didn't make it, and a buddy that I did play basketball with in high school, his father was a partner with in a law firm with a state senator.
Okay.
So they had offered me a job to work as a messenger. This is back in 1986.
All right.
And I didn't know I hadn't stepped foot in the Capitol before I went in for the interview. And it's one of those things where I didn't know what I wanted to do at this point.
Right.
But
Like
I know
basketball's no longer there.
Right,
So.
exactly. And I started out in business / government.
Mhm.
And again, I didn't know what I wanted to be, and I needed a job.
How old were you at that point?
I was 20 years old.
Okay.
And I transferred in from UT El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
And so I needed a job, and this job was inside. I hadn't had many inside jobs.
You're like, let me start off with the very
Air
low bar. Is it
conditioning.
AC? No AC.
Right. And back then, during the interim in the legislature, it was a lot slower than it is now.
Mhm.
So I could study, get paid $3.25 an hour.
No. Yeah. I remember those.
Which was
I
awesome.
remember those days.
And
I remember $3.15 an hour.
yeah, okay, all right, yeah, I was a little behind you then, but it was a great job because I could study and I could learn what the legislative process was.
Uh-huh.
And from there, I joined the same friend that got me the job. He went to the Naval Academy,
Okay.
and I got his job in the Senate office.
Okay.
And I've been in and around Capitol ever since.
Really cool. Just kind of like, I didn't make it here, and someone else.
But
As
That's what I
often,
say, though. I say, like, life is very sort of failure tolerant.
Right.
You know, it's like you think you screwed up and your life is over, and boom, a whole new arc, like a whole new life, kind of just
100%.
off.
And I know we're going to discuss things later, but one thing I will say is, I want to be an architect. I wanted to be a pilot. My dad is a painter decorator. I could have done that.
Mhm.
So I don't think, especially for Gen Z, you can't stay on one path, I don't
Right.
think,
Mhm.
right away.
Right.
There's always going to be twists and turns in your career, and
I
you
mean,
never know where you end up.
it's a huge question, right? And one of the things that we're hoping to provide, I don't know if I mentioned this last, I've got a 21-year-old, and since she's 13, there's all these kind of indecisions. And I remember that when I was 13 myself and trying to figure out what I wanted to become, but just kind of living that on a daily and trying to see what she's going through and her friends are going through. And of course, in one of my previous or other businesses in financial planning, I also met with a lot of clients that had the same challenge in the family. Is there, how does a parent kind of parent or help their student or their kid, not student, their kid, child, figure out what they want to become? And there's just so many options. And at the same time that there's so many options, it's almost like it's not enough choices there, not enough uh, outcome based. Here's a great thing that would fit me. And so I think that's part of the challenge at 20 is like nobody just knows, right? Just like, I don't know. I think I want to do this because you had a passion for basketball, but whenever that dead ends, then you fall into something else. And life does happen that way, where you just kind
No,
of
100%.
fall
I
into
fell
something.
into this. I had no idea what a lobbyist was when
Yeah.
when I first got to the Capitol.
Yeah.
Period. And
What attracted you to government slash lobbyist slash law?
You already told us
So-
the AC, man. Like,
it was. I swear to God, I needed a job.
Right.
So
But
there
but
was
one thing is to get one, and then the second one is to continue. Like,
Right,
yeah.
staying.
So the reason I stayed on it. So when I interviewed with the state senator,
Mhm.
he told me everybody that had gone through his office had gone to law school.
Okay.
And he asked me what my plan was. Well, I said go to law school,
Okay.
not thinking I was going to go to law school, but I did.
Just
I
forgot.
needed a job. So it turns out, I graduate and I work for about a year and a half. I'm still at the Capitol, and the senator I'm working for at that time loses his election. At the end of college, I decide, I probably should go to law school. I've got a government degree. I don't want to teach.
Right.
So I need to go to law school. And so I apply, get in, I go to SMU Law School,
Mhm.
and I come back, and the boss that I was going to go back to work for has lost his election
Got it.
right
Mhm.
before I graduated. So I'm not sure where I'm going to go, but I know I have, experience at the Capitol. So I interview with another senator, and he hires me, and I stay with him for 4 years. And within that 4 years, I realized, yes, I did want to be a lobbyist. I saw people that, their lives have changed.
Mhm.
Um,
So I think for obviously the audience and even for ourselves is like, what does a
Yeah, I'm
lobbyist
so
do?
glad you went there.
What does a lobbyist do? And obviously there's some passion I can hear in your voice of like, I want to do this. So what good is it for the
so
community, the people?
I represent entities, whether it be cities, Fortune 500 companies, or small companies, at the state legislature, and we try to, advocate for them, their whatever legislation they may or may not like, and we're there to, push their agenda. And a lot of people know exactly what we do, but
Mhm.
a lot of my job is, going in the offices and talking to people and saying, this and that, and why they should or should not pass this piece of legislation, or why they should vote against this piece of legislation.
Right.
And it's about educating senators, staffers,
Mhm.
and moving forward from there.
Sounds to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but you said I didn't want to be a teacher, right? You're in the government, but you wanted you still have that drive to educate, like have some sort of education part of helping others understand, like you're doing for us right now.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that, both of my parents did not finish high school,
Right.
but they always were pushing education,
Got it. Yeah.
100%. They
Mhm.
couldn't care less that I was good at basketball
Right.
Oh.
Right.
at all.
Right.
It was get your degree,
Yeah.
go on and do something with that
Right.
degree. So between I have two siblings. We've got 5 degrees between
Yeah.
the two, between the three of us.
Okay.
And so it was it's always been education and my
We all
family.
listen
So
to your parents.
yeah. And again, when and you know this, I grew up in South London, and not great part of South London is gentrifying now, so it's a little
Mhm.
different. But the only way out was education,
Right. Right.
and so it was always drilled into us, and when we moved to the United States, it was still. I don't care if you can play basketball
Right.
or soccer,
Right.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. You need to, graduate, and you need to move forward from
Well,
there.
they knew that, or imagine that, a basketball career has through your certain youth, and then you've got to go do something else. It's
Right,
always gotta
exactly.
be
So
fall
you
on the
always have to have education,
Yeah.
period. So that's where that drive comes
Okay,
from. And like I said, when you see a career that I think I can do,
right. Yeah.
at that point, I was like, well, I've already got the law background.
Yeah. You
So it's time for me to
build in towards it, and then you get in that, and you're it sounds like you're sharing this education, this knowledge. You're helping senators and others learn about community and what the community needs. Is
Right.
what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, 100%. And again, some people that do know what I do don't like what I do,
Right.
and because
Because there's always a two sides to the coin.
right, and so yes, we represent cities, but I also represent pharmaceutical companies,
Mhm.
and we represent Altria, which is a tobacco company.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might not like who I
Right.
represent, but I represent my client to the fullest, regardless
Yeah.
of how I even feel.
Right. That's the attorney side of it, right? That's the attorney has to represent. Oh, this thing is supposed to be off, but I'll make sure we got it.
Goes ding.
Still goes down.
That's the same with lawyers. Though. I mean,
was
you have
just
to
thinking
represent
No,
clients
I
that
tell
you
people
might
that all the time.
not enjoy, but that's not the point. Your job is to defend or prosecute
100%.
someone.
I don't think I could do criminal law, but I believe everybody deserves representation.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and some of my clients are great. Some of my clients may not have the public may not have a great view of them, but I still have to represent them to the
Right.
fullest.
There's
So,
still people there trying to make a living and
right,
do their
100%.
thing. Well, let's jump into as we've discussed, and or you've seen one of our other podcasts. Is part of it is understanding more about you and your how you got to where you are now, and the other part is we have a correspondents that go out and talk to Gen Z students, trying to figure out what is concerning them, because they're at that point when you were at 20, just trying to figure out what am I going to do, and so we want to be able to voice from an older generations, say here's I was there, here's how I would have answered it, or here's how I did answer it, and so let's jump into the first one, and see some of these. Let's see, this is Mahi. And let's see what she's got to say.
Anything worry you about the future when you graduate?
I think just how we interact with technology right now, especially like the younger generation. I think a lot of people are being like consumed by social media, and it just can cause a lot of anxiety because we have so much access to like all this information and news. So And then it's like further isolating us, right? Because we're not
Yeah.
getting that direct human interaction. So that's like something. I mean, you can use it, but just use it wisely or be
Right.
aware of what you're, I guess, taking in. Yeah.
Sure.
So we've heard this a couple of times from a few students that they're aware that information overload and anxiety and social media has been come up on a few of these concerns, and it's been brought up in the show before, but we'll just definitely discuss it. What I heard here, the three things is I am concerned about the future with technology. Now, something that we obviously embrace it founding up and try to use it for positive is AI. And that's kind of in the lips of everybody, right? Everybody's talking about AI and how that's going to do it. I think you're trying to understand what that is. And it's both for those that are in it and understand it and they can use it for their business, that's just a great thing. But then for those that don't or see some, corrupt uses for it, they're like, oh, that's kind of a two-sided coin. So I think she's got certain concerns are valid for sure. But I just kind of wonder, what do you guys think?
It makes me think of the CrowdStrike crash that
Oh.
happened. Like, I had friends who couldn't open their refrigerators because
Oh, really?
it
Oh,
was
wow.
so interconnected.
Yeah.
And I was in an Uber ride, and the Uber driver was in IT, and he was explaining to me that the individual that ran the update made such a rookie mistake to access some core memory. I didn't understand what he was saying, but I'm trying
But
to
it was a rookie.
regurgitate it. Yeah. But the point is it woke up that company to be like, oh, if that could happen from one person just
Mhm.
making a bad decision by releasing an update too soon, we should rethink how we are monitoring that or running our updates or how much we are reliant on technology.
Right. The world is
So crazy.
so small when it comes to how everything's wired together. And it reminds me, and I don't recall which bank it was, maybe you guys do, but about a decade ago, one individual hit a button on his keyboard and wiped out like $3 billion of assets for this management company. And it was just a rookie mistake. And so uh, it is things that can happen, but it's like we're so dependent on tech and to not be able to open your refrigerator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. It's funny they're going back a bit, right? Sort of about using tools for good or bad. It kind of reminds me a bit of lobbying, right? It's like it's a tool. It's just advocating. It's like being a defense lawyer. You're just trying to make someone's case, I think there's a tendency to blame the tool
Mm.
if you see, as opposed, like, oh, someone invented AI and you can do good and bad things with AI, right? So, but instead of blaming the person who uses the tool for good or bad, instead of sort of attributing responsibility in that fashion, instead you jump to the tool. Why did you invent AI? And people are saying the inventors of AI must have made it perfectly. So how? With the transformative technology, how could you possibly appreciate the world that it would be used by the variety of people, right?
Mhm.
And that in my mind is sort of an interesting one because like, yes, you could do it, but it's sort of like, and yes, you can blame the tool, you can blame the lobbyist because I don't like a lobbyist. You're like, well, as if that advocate as if they're not going to advocate for themselves, right? As if this isn't going to happen. And so that's sort of how I come at these things. And yes, some things need legislation and so on, but it's like I tend to worry less about the tech. You can ban and outlaw a technology in the short run.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, that solves your problem for 3 months, 6 months. But it's not like China isn't using AI. It's not like every other country on this planet isn't using AI.
Mhm.
So the sort of the debate is, in my mind, it's over. It's already out. It's too late. The cat's out the bag. So you better figure out how to use it well because here we are. So,
Right. But what I think you have to realize is at the state legislature, they're going to have hearings on AI,
Sure.
and we might be too late.
Yeah, no, it might be. It might be, yeah.
And so we missed I think we kind of missed the boat on social media,
Mhm.
and now we're trying to catch up.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah, right.
and people want to ban TikTok or certain things. And we don't seem, at least I say Western civilization, doesn't
Sure.
seem to get ahead of a problem.
Right.
We react.
React.
Especially with technology, right? Because it's so fast. And it's
Right. I remember the day I got on the internet at the Capitol.
Wow.
Okay, that's how old I am.
2016,
When the
right?
internet
That's when
was
they put it in.
invented.
No, I it's around then. Think it might have been even earlier when I think about it, but I didn't have a computer at my house,
Right.
and we had dummy terminals,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden they said you can get on the internet. Well, I looked at it as a tool because now I didn't have to go to the library,
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
and so I could just get on there. I could research,
Mhm.
and so I could do all this research and not leave the office,
Mhm.
and I think that was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had this giant library of information
Mhm.
that was probably more information than the library had.
Right.
And so there is good
Mhm.
that comes from the internet, that comes from the AI or social media. It's just how do we use it?
Right. And then how does legislation get faster?
Right. And
Go ahead.
I think, again, we're reacting,
Mhm.
and some folks that are legislating don't understand AI.
Right.
They don't understand social media.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a problem.
Right.
I think.
Well,
Yeah.
aren't you saying that there's still legislation, and that maybe it's just I overheard that they're still trying to decide if the internet is a utility?
Yeah,
or not?
we haven't decided whether or not the internet's an essential utility. We have no hope of, and there's far too much in that decision for it ever realistically to be made. I think in the current sort of American ecosystem.
But I mean, when you think about AT&T,
Right.
Mhm.
for years they were the only thing,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden they realized, oh, we need to break them up.
Right.
So will that happen with Facebook?
Open
And,
AI.
yeah. Will they say, you know what, you have too much power, we need to
Right.
split
Maybe.
things up?
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen at either in Congress or at the state legislature.
Yeah. That's what it's
So it is very important.
to just talk about the concern. There, to me, this sounds like whether it's anxiety or internet or whatnot, and we can certainly allow it to affect us internally. There's like this external world of things that are happening that
Mhm.
we have zero control over, and then there's this internal control, and I have to decide every day if I want to get on the social media or not, right? And it does affect me at 50. I'll be 51 this month.
Yeah.
At 51, it still affects me, and I've got to keep that social media off. I'm much more productive if I don't. Like sometimes I'll like I'm bored. I want to just like see what's up,
Sure.
right? And the next thing you know is hours gone by, and my head hurts.
Mhm.
Ooh, this was not good for me. So recognizing early and shutting off. So I certainly feel for younger individuals that you know are still that is what they're getting their news and everything else. I don't really read the news that much anymore. It's like I've had enough. I know things are happening. There's not much I can do about it. I'm going to just work on what I'm working on. So certainly there's these controls that one has to kind of put on them on self control.
So thinking about this interview this morning while I was at the gym, and in the last couple of weeks, I've stopped doing what I was doing because in between sets, I was picking up my phone and I'd scroll through the news, and then I realized I'm just wasting time.
Mhm.
And I see everybody else doing it just when I'm supposed to be working out.
Yeah.
I'm on social media or reading the news or
Mhm.
whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
Because one
And
notification
Really easy.
comes in.
Ding.
And
Yeah.
so now the last 2 weeks, I have forbade myself from touching my phone unless I want to know the time
Right.
or change the music.
Yeah.
But there's so many people at my gym on their phone,
Right.
not paying attention to what they came to do.
Right.
And that talks to what she said as well. As I heard isolation, right? Is isolation's a thing, right? Because
It is very isolating. 'Cause
Mhm.
you're not actually. It feels like you're interacting with someone, but
Right.
you're not.
Yeah.
You're not. Like I remember years ago when Facebook came to Britain, being like, I don't know, 20 or something, and I'm on it. And at first it felt great because you'd spend it's really easy to spend every evening with your friends or whatever,
Right.
and you
Such
could
a-
talk or whatever. And I suddenly, and then but you wouldn't go see them. Well, I'd already talked to them all of last night. Why would I go see them? I don't
Right.
need. I know what's
I
up.
just
in their
caught up
life.
with them, yeah.
Right, I'll catch up with them later, right? And then suddenly I realized like I wasn't really going to see my friends for one-on-one. You'd still see them in groups and things, but it's not quite the same. And I started to kind of realize that I was lonely, and it just suddenly occurred to me. I was like, it's not an acceptable substitute, and it
Community.
to community, right?
Right.
To real interaction.
And again, I'm older than everybody in here, I think. I'm sure. And so
I thought I had that card.
no, you didn't. I got you by 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So when Facebook first started, I reconnected with my English friends that I hadn't seen in 20 years.
Mhm.
And now we're still in touch. And when I
Mhm.
go back to England, I
Right.
get to see them. Do I get on Facebook much anymore? Not really. I don't think it's geared towards me anymore. When it started, it was about your friends and community. Now it's about ads
Mhm.
and whatever they think you want to
Mhm.
see.
Right. Promoted posts.
Right. And so I don't really get on Facebook anymore. I do a little bit of Instagram. I don't post anything because of what I do.
Mm.
I never post.
Yeah.
So I get what she's saying, but you have to have some self-responsibility
Right.
Mhm.
to say, you know what, I probably should go over to my friend's house and actually talk to them, or we should all go out. I don't need to do that through the phone.
Yeah, and I think first step is awareness. Her being aware. My
Right.
daughter said that, and I may have said this before. My daughter the other day said, "Dad, I want a flip phone."
Yeah, right. Take it away.
So good.
What it's like I will eat an entire pack of cookies if they're in my house.
Right.
Right. I
too.
exercise my self-restraint at the
Right. That's
at
supermarket.
the
Right.
at
That's
the
grocery
store,
store.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
That's it. I only have to be good once,
Mm.
and then
Right.
and it's the same thing. It's like or like you're at the gym. You just have like there's some amount of just having that moment where you're like, oh God, I spend so much time
Right.
in this little box. And they optimized it to be as addictive as possible.
No,
Right.
100%. And I mean, when I do get on Instagram, the next thing I know,
Boom,
30
hour.
minutes
Yeah,
ago.
right.
Yeah.
And you're like, what was, and I was looking,
How?
and I did laugh.
Yeah,
There
right.
you go.
Well,
I did learn a couple of things, but
Reframe.
then I'm like, but I'm wasting time.
you know what you just said kind of had me think about something. Is like when you're on the socials, you don't know what's coming. It's that unexpected, and there's a certain, and I was reading. I forget what book I was reading the other day, but it was talking about how you get in that dopamine hit, but it's that gambling that you don't know if it's
Mhm.
going to be good or bad. So socials, like I'm not sure what's coming up next as far as I learned. A lot of times it's like board. Oh, that's
They
cool.
hit sometimes.
Whereas you can be much more intentional. Be like, I heard this book is really good. I'm gonna put that on audio, and I know I'm going to learn something. And it's that it's not as attractive from a mental standpoint, but
Right.
yeah, there is that choice that one can make.
But again, 58, 20 something.
Yeah.
It the phone means totally different
Right.
things
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
each of
True,
us.
yeah. Especially with
Yeah.
COVID.
Right, exactly. 100%. I can't imagine being in high school
Right.
and only being able to talk to my friends through my phone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I did not have that experience. And so we get addicted to different things.
Right.
And a lot of these kids are addicted to their phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anybody that leaves their house without their phone anymore. And when they do leave without
like-
a phone, they got to go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw that
and-
literally last
right.
night. Somebody came back in and got
And-
my phone.
Right. And so, but the thing is, the very few times that you leave your house and you can't go back to get the phone, you survive.
Yeah.
Life goes on.
Life is okay.
Right. Exactly. And I think young people need to understand they don't need their phones 24/7.
Well, I say all people need to understand that.
Right.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't
Because
need it.
But part of it
Don't
is
die.
like we're all learning together, and message that as Gen Z is like, we're your sidekick. We're here to support. We're here to help. We're listening to the issues and we're trying to address them. And hey, we understand that piece of technology is something that we didn't grow up with. That's a problem that you're having, and we're listening. And here's some of the things that have helped us. But yeah, I totally.
Well, I just want to share one more thing. One thing that I learned in my 20s, which reminds me of what you were saying about community, is I was reading a Louise Hay's book. She's a helper healer. And she said, and in my 20s, I was traveling, I was away from my family. And so I would isolate because I would feel lonely or depressed. But one of the things that popped out to me in her book is she said, it's a gift when people invite you to do things. So try to say yes every time. And just like you were saying, when you're scrolling, it's I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't know what I'm going to get. You will inevitably be like delightfully surprised when you do say yes and you do go out and you do experience community, because you'll experience something you weren't expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
say yes.
No, say yes. That's what we said. All right, let's jump to our next
Yeah.
one. This is Sarah.
What do you think of the educational system?
Yeah. I don't think highly of it. Um, I think that in college, the kind of education that I have gotten was worlds different from like public education growing up. Um, I remember taking a history class in college and learning about certain topics that they did not want to talk about in like grade school. And it just like hit me like a truck. I was like, oh my God, like this is all the stuff that they were just kind of like teetering around in grade school. And it was fascinating to actually learn that. But I don't think that like public education growing up really teaches you life skills and teaches you things that you could use practically every single day for a long time. They teach you, beneficial stuff, but they don't really teach you how to be a person, I think.
If you could change anything of the education system, what would you change?
I think that I would implement more real life lessons and examples. Like for instance, my roommate is a preschool teacher, and her method of teaching the kids is kind of like putting them outside and having them play in a mud kitchen, or having them create crafts and having them like pretend cook. And I think that would be really beneficial to introduce into not just preschool, but like, kindergarten, middle school, high school, and having them kind of practice these things that can benefit them in the future, like fake interviews, or maybe teaching them how to interact with a boss for the first time, or how to even talk to the like people that they're attracted to in an appropriate way or something like that.
That was really interesting.
So cool.
That could have been 2 questions. So we'll just spend some time on this. When she first said she didn't appreciate school, I thought she was being college, because we've talked to a lot of Gen Z that feel that way about college and university now, right? Where they don't have that value anymore. But she was actually saying grade school versus university. So we can address both of those things. And the other thing that I noticed that she says is life skills, right? So she's like, I just want some life skills and mud kitchen and cooking and a job interview. And some of the people that we've talked to talk about finance 101. Like, I don't know how to balance a checkbook. I don't know how to,
Right.
how a credit card works. I don't know what, like the real things that you have. What I find, and I'm glad I have you here and we can chat about it. I'm going to go down a little tangent when it comes to that. How is it that a person that's 18 years old, when still young, youth, and experienced, trying to figure out what they want to do in life, can get credit for school?
I was just about to bring that up.
$100,000 or so. That same 18-year-old waits 3 years and says, oh, I want to go build a business. I need a $100,000 loan to make that happen. And all of a sudden now banks and governments all like, step away. Give me 3 years bank statements. Show me all of these things. But I was able to kind of get you I'd get you in debt, but not in a productive way.
Right.
And that's good debt versus bad debt. And it's just one of
What
those.
makes it good is the government underwrote waffle.
I don't know if you all know the comedian Joe Mulaney. He does a little bit about how he got tons of money to go to school and party, hang out, and do. And then he talks about, after the fact, he's got this big giant debt and he's got no skills. And I remember the first day I stepped foot on UT campus, they were basically giving away credit cards. And all you had to do was sign up. I had a bank account.
Yeah.
But they gave me, well, I want to say it was $5,000 credit
Damn.
back then.
Yeah.
This is, what, 1990.
Wow.
No, 1986, sorry. And so
It's like 20 grand a day.
I know. I was just going to
so
say
they just gave it to me. And you know what I did with it? Because my parents picked up my tuition, I had to figure out how to live. So I had to get a job, and I used a credit card. I used that credit card through college, the year and a half I worked in law school, and I had $70,000 of debt that were, hamburgers, concerts,
Right.
going out, and I got nothing to show for it.
Right.
But I've got good credit because I always made the payments, and
You're a good
first of all,
citizen.
I don't
Yeah.
think they should allow credit card companies on campus until you're ready to graduate, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I was educated enough in finance to think about, I'm only making minimum payments.
Right.
Right.
And they send me a Christmas card every Christmas saying, thank you for being a great customer.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm building credit and everything's, but I'm not thinking about the interest of
Taking up.
The snowball.
Correct. And like I said, $70,000 in debt once I leave law school and law school debt.
Yeah.
You're talking over $200,000.
Right.
And so.
And that's before you buy a house.
Right. Exactly. And, I've been very lucky. I paid off that debt. My house is almost paid off, but it took some luck.
Right.
And it took some work.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you can, you're not aware at age 18 how this is all going to affect you in the future.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people go to college and then they're out now, they're out 200,000 plus.
Right.
And they're like, well, I wasted 4 years or 5 years or how many ever years it was, and I've got this debt and I don't have a job that I can pay this debt off with.
Right.
Yeah. That was one of the things that always concerned me when I was throughout my financial planning career is I saw that college debt grow by 8% as a nation. The last I checked is $1.6 trillion as a nation, and it would overtake housing in 2042 as the most debt that this nation carries is school debt that you have no asset to show for, right? And so it bugged me. It still bugs me to think that we're putting on this anchor on someone at 18 and no asset to show. It's not like having a house, or a business, right? I'd rather put that anchor on you and here's your business, go build your franchise. But
what I see happening now, people are forgoing college and going into technical school for 2 years, or just going into a job, period, after they graduate. Is that what we want?
That's a great question because, the rest of the, some of the other things that other people that we've talked to and interviewed is like, you've got other countries that are hungry for this education and they're coming in here and they've got that work ethic and everything else that it's like showing up at these. And so that poses a great question in that, but is it by our own doing with the debt that has gotten so high that we're causing a shift?
Right.
And is that what we want?
So growing up in the English system,
Cool, blimey.
I went to a very good school. So, by the time I was 14, I'd already taken chemistry, physics, and biology. But I had also taken woodwork, mechanics, painting.
I was going to say painting, yeah, because you did this. And I was like,
yeah. So, yes, I was educated, but I could also use my hands. And so at age 16, you take your A level and O levels, and you kind of try to figure out what your destiny is going to kind of be. So it might be college, or you might be an apprentice in a woodworking shop. or, air conditioning or whatever it might be.
Right.
We don't do that here.
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
And we need people to fix our cars, put air conditioning in houses, to build houses,
Yeah.
to build roads.
Right.
We do not prepare any student from high school. Well, not all systems, but
Right.
a lot of systems don't prepare kids
Yeah.
to do anything but go to college. And not everybody's
Right.
cracked up to be in college.
Society as a whole, I mean, there's this, I've always said, this unwritten kind of peer pressure to,
Right.
by, you said, education. Your parents were like, a lot of parents want the best for their kids, and the only thing they know is do this. And that's what I meant by this mismatch of parents and their kids, of giving them the right advice for the outcome. It's hard because they just don't have but one or two skills. And so, yeah, it's important to recognize that as a society, we have this peer pressure that we put on generations to go do these things. And it's not really like, are we really thinking about what we're saying, and what are the options that this not only country needs, but our kids need?
Just everybody's different.
Right.
The world is also very different. I remember once at the grand age of 23, maybe, asking my father for some life advice on the job market. And he gave me an answer, and my first thought to myself was, this answer is garbage.
Mhm.
Like, this is not a good... He's like, Leon, stick it out for 4 or 5 years. Maybe you'll be miserable, but at the end of that, you'll have a good job and you can buy a house and settle down. And I'm just like, my employer will fire me as soon as it is financially beneficial for them to do so. Right? There's like, he grew up in a job market that had loyalty,
Right.
where you stayed with companies for like half your life at least, right?
Yeah.
Today's job market looks nothing like that. And I think it is tough as a parent, because you're trying to set your kid up as best you know how.
Right.
And for parents, that was going to uni.
Right.
Guaranteed. I remember saying to my dad, should I go to uni? He said, every friend I had that went to uni, was
That's
making
university
double
for everybody
university,
else.
right? Everyone that went to university was earning double what I was by the time they were 40. And so he was like, yeah, so it seemed like a no-brainer, right? And then fast forward to today, and this kind of touches on something earlier. It's like skills-based learning, right? Like, the education system is set up to teach certain content, but we're at a point now we don't even know. I don't know what someone's going to need to know in 5 years to be in the workplace, in 10 years to be in the workplace. You have kids going into professions. You have 18-year-olds in university now who do not know they will need what they're being taught in 4 years by their employer potentially.
And yet they're spending a couple $100,000.
Right. And the institutions have no qualms in taking that money, but because that's their status quo too, or that they don't know they're not any smarter than anyone else. So I don't know. It's just this interesting, because like, everyone's trying to do their best, but there is this huge social pressure to the parents too.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, little Jimmy's not going to go to university, take a few years to figure it out. And then your friend's like, little Jimmy couldn't hack it. How will my daughter? She's going, and then now you feel bad. And
Right.
So like, the parents themselves have peer pressure from their peers
I remember
for their children to perform.
someone telling me, I forget who it was, it said, yeah, we were there talking to a counselor, an advisor, someone to a university, and they're trying to talk us to bring our kid to that university, and their sales pitch was, but does that pass the sweatshirt test? And he's like, sweatshirt test? He's like, when you're on the golf course playing golf, are you going to be proud of that sweatshirt that
Oh
you're
my
wearing?
God.
Well, like
for your
you
kid?
need the Harvard logo on your
Exactly.
sweatshirt, so everyone
And he's like,
knows.
they use that tactic. That was said to me.
And it presumably works, because if the sales
Right.
guy's saying it,
Right.
I
Right.
assume
People
that
care.
it does work.
We're all trying to survive, and part of that is like to be ahead of everybody else. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I had
You're
the
doing
privilege.
it on podcast.
I
Everybody's going to know.
It's not the first part, but the second part. The first part is I'm proud to say that I had the privilege to study abroad in Australia. But while I was there, I'm embarrassed to admit that when my peers were celebrating their peers from graduating a trade school, like, isn't that amazing? He graduated trade school. I would judge it, and I'd be like, okay.
Right.
And because in America, we don't uphold trade schools as valuable. And they were so proud, and it taught me such a valuable lesson, because now I know plumbers who are doing better than,
Mhm.
some other people I know.
Say my plumber makes like $100, $150
Exactly.
an
They're
hour.
six
Yeah.
figures.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that should be a societal shift that we push for, because it is important to have every type of worker. You look at children's books and they highlight all the types of dump trucks that are there, all the types of like
So-
work to help build society.
Right.
And that loses sight through all of the other distractions. But I also wanted to say, this is totally unrelated, but I just bought my grandmother a book. She was born in 1934. And so she just turned 90. So I thought, oh, let me get her the Remember When for 1944, because she would have been 10. She would have
Yeah.
remembered that. And I opened it up this morning before sending it to her. And it said,
What's that?
yeah.
What's that?
well, 1944 Harvard tuition
Mhm.
was $420 a year.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
How much is a dollar worth of change? Although I do
Right.
have that
Yeah.
question.
that would have been nice, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
I just thought of the sweatshirt test.
No, that's great. And it's great to have these discussions, because I feel like as a society we need to have more of these discussions, so that it gives permission for parents and the kids to like ask the questions, like what outcome based, what do I really want? Another thing that has bugged me, and I've seen in a lot of conversations I've had over the years, is sometimes it's like, I want to be this, without thinking like, what does that mean in the future? So for example, I want to be a teacher. I've heard that often, and it's a noble profession, right? But
It's
as a
an unpaid
it's a
profession.
financial planner, in that career, I was always thinking, you're going to spend $200K to make 40 or 50K a year. Like, let's do the outcome based math on that and see how long it's going to take you to pay that off. And what's that happiness? Like, the profession itself is noble, but how's that going to affect or impact your life? And so I think those are questions that need to be discussed and need to be like at least brought up, or at least think about, so that when our kids are coming to us and saying, I want to be this. I know this actually happened with my daughter. She did say she wanted to be a teacher, and I said, cool. It's a noble profession. Let's go to a spreadsheet. And let's go do I took her to the spreadsheet. And I took a monthly budget and I said, here's what it costs to live. And we did the homework together. The next day, she didn't want to be.
I want to be a CEO.
But so across the world, we undervalue teachers.
Right.
Teachers should probably get paid the most.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
If you're going to discourage people like that, where do we get our teachers from?
Well, and I don't want to confuse that. So I'm glad that you asked that. I'm not discouraging from anybody doing anything. What I'm saying is we simply have to do the math for the outcome, right? Because there's plenty of, and I've told my daughter, it's a noble cause. How are you going to fill that gap? Because you've got an outcome base. You want this lifestyle. What kind of lifestyle do you want? And will this provide that lifestyle? And I simply said, is part of your plan to have a spouse and have that as a system? And so I gave her the full picture, because you can certainly do that, but this is what you also need to plan for. Or are you wanting to live on your own? So I painted the broad picture. I'm not discouraging it at all. I'm simply saying that there's a period of time when kids are trying to figure out what they want to do, and that question should be. It's kind of like finance. The whole finance thing is not discussed at that age, and so you go off on your credit cards and all that kind of stuff. The other thing is, if I'm going to go invest in my education, it should be an investment and not a gamble. And I feel that so many times when you don't put that thought into the output, it becomes a gamble. It went from Vegas to Wall Street. From Wall Street to Vegas.
But if we do your spreadsheet, I would say most people wouldn't become a teacher.
Yeah, they won't.
And which is sad.
That's where people like you come in to help change legislation of what to pay them.
And I think it's conversations that have to happen. I'll share another example of a person that I know and closely, who went down the path, took on the expense of becoming a teacher and the loans and all of that, went into the profession for 10 years. And the second 10 years happened. She did her public service. She got the loan written off. She was out. She was like, this isn't what I thought it would be, and I'm out. So that love of teaching went out as well. So there's got to be a different solution to this problem.
And this is another thing. England, America, highly taxed.
Right.
In England. still don't pay the teachers enough. We're not willing to, as Americans, we're not willing to raise our taxes to
Right.
pay teachers more.
Right.
But we need good teachers.
Or we send them to private schools. Is the other side of that, is what ends up happening. And again, I didn't want to make it a debate as to how we're handling it. I'm just the
It's
question I'm
important
trying to
pick
answer is
career trajectories with the end.
Right, no doubt.
Yeah.
But I still feel we won't get the best people to be the good teachers
100%. And I don't know
because they quit.
I don't.
after-
Yeah. They
When
they either
you pay them, that's
so they either take on the loan and have a hard 10 years and then quit,
Right.
or they get partway in and get the debt and still have this debt. So the whole thing is like, how do we minimize that debt and make better outcomes or have better outcomes? Is the idea?
I think if we would pay teachers more, good teachers would stay.
Sure, 100%. Yeah.
only someone could legislate for that.
Well,
Only we need someone who has strings that they can
trust me, there are many people up there trying to get more money for schools and for teachers.
That's a can of worms.
It's just, I just don't. I mean, like, what is the perfect salary for a teacher?
Well, and also at the end of the day, you have a student that went through the school system saying, "I don't think school did me any good. It didn't teach me the things I needed to teach." So we're all talking about the same issue,
Right.
and so I don't know the answer to that. I'm addressing one part of the, if we're looking at an elephant, you're looking at the tail and the head. I'm simply addressing the aspect of that's a problem. I don't know what the answer is. You know a lot more about that than I do because you're dealing with those issues. I'm looking at the other side of the elephant saying, do you go get in debt and hope that these guys figure it out?
It's not even just a teacher. There's lots, right? I have many friends with kids in college and they've got some random major. I'm like, what are you going to do with that?
Right. Yeah.
And you just paid $100,000+, and I know you can't find a job in that degree.
Right.
Right.
So you're going to have to go to graduate school and
Costs a little more money.
Right. Take on some more debt. And where does it stop?
Yeah. Yeah. No.
You know, and
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we perpetuate this stuff by not giving people life skills right out of high school.
Right.
And you would hope you would get life skills once you get to college and you're done.
Yeah.
So you can get into a career that may be able to pay off your loan within a certain amount of time.
So I think what's great about this discussion, what I'm taking away, and I'm hoping audience Gen Z takes away from this is, look, there's some issues out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's up to you to think about, your life responsibility, whether it's social media, whether it's whatever debt I want to take on. Understand that nobody's out here. There's systems that it's easy to get into, but it's harder to get out of. And so put some thought into your future as you're thinking about that, and don't just kind of leave it to chance.
Yeah.
Although on the other side of that, you leave it a chance and you become a lobbyist
Right.
or a rocket scientist.
So
There's
there's a lady, I've told this story a bunch of times. When you go down Lamar, there's a building at Lamar and MLK.
Mhm.
And I think the company is T3.
Okay.
And I think they were marketing. And she's spoken at a couple of events that have been at. And again, I think my life, I've been blessed, but it's always, somebody helped me here, somebody helped me there, wherever it is. And the way she put it is, your life is a puzzle and somebody has a piece. And always when somebody invites you to something, go to it.
Mm-hmm.
And talk to somebody. When you walk into a room and there's somebody by themselves, that you can tell they don't know anybody, go over and talk to them.
Yeah.
They might be able to help you in the future.
Yeah.
And so
I love that.
It's one of those things where I've been lucky, maybe in the right place at the right time, and people have helped me along my career. and you got to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit. Sometimes it's uncomfortable.
Right.
You don't want to go,
Mm.
but go do stuff that that you're not comfortable doing because you never know where it'll lead.
I love that. I think we'll end there.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kwame.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And that concludes episode 9 of Uncharted Your Sidekick for Life with our fantastic guest, Kwame Walker. We hope we sparked something inside you through our thought-provoking conversations about technology, the public education system, the challenges of debt, and much more. Kwame's experiences remind us of the importance of adaptability, mentorship, and the value of being open to various career paths. Remember, when you're navigating new challenges or striving for your next big goal, there's always value in learning from those who've walked the path before us. Thank you to all of our Gen Z contributors. If you would like to participate as a Gen Z guest or a mentor, visit our site at foundingup.com or check out the show notes. Thank you for joining the Founding Up and Uncharted team on this journey. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your friends. Until next time, keep exploring the uncharted.